What's up, guys? This is Chris from DraftDashboard.com.
Here are my DFS picks for NFL Week 17. Top DFS picks.
These picks apply for DraftKings and FanDuel. Before I get started, please drop a like on this video and hit that red subscribe button
And hit that bell icon
so you don't miss our new videos.
In this video, I'm going to go over my top picks for this week's NFL slate. And if you stick around to the very end of this video, we'll use the Draft Dashboard tools to make a DFS lineup using the picks we just made. Okay guys, NFL Week 17. Let's take a look at the quarterback position. So my top DFS pick on this slate, probably Josh Allen going against a weak Atlanta Falcons defense, but he is expensive. He's the most expensive quarterback on the slate, and the Buffalo Bills are favored by 14.5. So I am a little bit worried that they blow out the Falcons and Josh Allen doesn't have to throw the ball too much. So I am gonna not pass on Josh Allen, but I'm gonna pick another quarterback here who I think you can get a much better price on and has similar upside in this matchup. So my top DFS pick at the quarterback position is Jalen Hurts from the Philadelphia Eagles playing the Washington football team, who have the second worst defense overall, and they give up the absolute most fantasy points to opposing quarterbacks. Jalen Hurts has averaged 22.6 fantasy points per game on the season, getting an average of 9.4 rush attempts per game. So he's projected at 21.7 fantasy points here in Week 17, and he's $6,600 DraftKings salary and $1,300 more on FanDuel. So I love that DraftKings price, and Vegas thinks there's going to be 46.5 points scored in this game, with the Eagles favored by 4. So Jalen Hurts has scored 17 and 30 fantasy points in his last 2 games. Now, he only got 2 rush attempts last game, but he got 8 rush attempts the game before that, and he's averaging over 9 rush attempts per game on the season. So I love his rushing floor in a fantastic matchup here versus the Washington football team.
Before I continue with the picks, I'm excited today because we added a new contest for everyone watching.
If you want to enter the drawing for $100 PayPal,
all you need to do is like this video, hit that subscribe button, and make a quick comment below to be entered into the drawing. We'll reply to a random comment and let you know that you won.
And then we'll send you $100 PayPal.
So it's that easy,
and we pick a new winner every Saturday and announce them in our video.
So get your comment in now so I can add another entry for you.
Okay, let's take a look at the running back position. So the studs on the slate, you got Jonathan Taylor, who's in a good matchup versus the Raiders. So you got Jonathan Taylor, who's in a good matchup versus the Raiders. Then you got Joe Mixon, who put up 32 fantasy points last week off of 18 rush attempts and 6 pass targets. He's in a decent matchup here versus the Kansas City Chiefs. But if you want to save some salary at the running back position, take a look at Damian Harris from the New England Patriots playing the Jacksonville Jaguars, who have the 12th worst defense overall, and they give up the 12th most fantasy points to opposing running backs. Damian Harris has averaged 14.8 fantasy points per game on the season, getting an average of 14 rush attempts per game and 1.2 pass targets per game. And Damian Harris is projected at 12.4 fantasy points here in Week 17. He's $6,600 DraftKings salary, $800 more on FanDuel. And Vegas thinks there's going to be 42 points scored in this game. But what I like about this pick is that Vegas thinks the Patriots are going to beat the Jaguars by 15.5 points. So this should be a running game script. Damian Harris should get 20 plus touches in a good matchup, and he's got that 20-30 point upside. So I like Damian Harris here versus the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now another running back that's right around the same salary, and I like just as much, is David Montgomery from the Chicago Bears playing the New York Giants, who have a middle-of-the-pack defense overall, and they give up the 7th most fantasy points to opposing running backs. David Montgomery has averaged 15.6 fantasy points per game on the season, getting an average of 16.6 rush attempts per game and 4.2 pass targets per game. He's projected at 15.7 fantasy points here in week 17, and he's 6,500 DraftKings salary and 700 more on FanDuel. Vegas thinks there's going to be 38 points scored in this game, with the Chicago Bears favored by 5.5. So David Montgomery has scored 24, 12, and 14 fantasy points in the last 3 games off of 21, 18, and 10 rush attempts on top of 9, 6, and 7 pass targets. So he's getting a ton of volume both on the ground and through the air. So I like David Montgomery here versus the New York Giants.
Real quick, guys, I got great news. For a limited time, we're offering a full 30-day trial to Draft Dashboard. You can try all of our DFS tools for all sports. You can try the Position Optimizer, where you can see the top players ranked for each position. And we added a new Player Trends tool, where you can see the top salary differences between FanDuel and DraftKings. It's a really good tool to help you pick out value for the site that you're playing on. Oh, and if you're tired of doing research every day, we just added a cheat sheet that shows hand-picked plays for the slate. No confusing stat lines, no headaches, just a simple cheat sheet that shows the absolute best players for your lineups.
Okay, let's take a look at the wide receiver position. So the stud on the slate, you got Cooper Kupp. He's 9,500 DraftKings salary. He continues to produce off of monster volume, and he finds himself again in a fantastic matchup versus the Baltimore Ravens, who have the 5th worst defense overall, and they give up the 3rd most fantasy points to opposing wide receivers. So of course I like Cooper Kupp here versus the Baltimore Ravens. I also like Stephon Diggs, but if I want to save some salary at this position, there's 2 players I got my eye on. A.J. Brown from the Tennessee Titans playing the Miami Dolphins, who have a middle-of-the-pack defense overall, and they give up the 7th most fantasy points to opposing wide receivers. A.J. Brown has averaged 15.2 fantasy points per game on the season, getting an average of 8.6 pass targets per game. He's projected at 13.6 fantasy points here in week 17. He's 7,200 DraftKings salary and 300 more on FanDuel. Vegas thinks there's going to be 41 points scored in this game, with the Titans favored by 3. So A.J. Brown scored 35 fantasy points off of 16 pass targets last week. So I like A.J. Brown here versus the Miami Dolphins. And then on the other side of the ball, I like Jalen Waddle from the Miami Dolphins playing the Tennessee Titans, who have a middle-of-the-pack defense overall. They give up the 2nd most fantasy points to opposing wide receivers. Jalen Waddle has averaged 16.3 fantasy points per game on the season, getting an average of 9.1 pass targets per game. He's projected at 14.3 fantasy points here in week 17, and he's 6,700 DraftKings salary, 300 more on FanDuel. And Jalen Waddle has scored 25 and 18 fantasy points in his last 2 games off of 12 and 11 pass targets. So I like Jalen Waddle
here versus the Tennessee Titans. Okay, moving on to the tight end position. Mark Andrews continues to roll. He's been on fire, scoring 30, 39, and 32 fantasy points in the last 3 games off of 10, 13, and 11 pass targets. He's $7,400 DraftKings salary, $1,300 more on FanDuel. So I like Mark Andrews here versus the LA Rams. But the other guy that I like, if you want to save some salary at this position, is Gerald Everett from the Seattle Seahawks playing the Detroit Lions, who have the 4th worst defense overall, and they give up the 9th most fantasy points to opposing tight ends. Gerald Everett has averaged 8.5 fantasy points per game on the season, getting an average of 4.2 pass targets per game. Now, he's on the field for 73% of the snaps, projected at 8.3 fantasy points here in week 17. He's only $4,100 DraftKings salary. He's $1,100 more on FanDuel. Vegas thinks there's going to be 42 points scored in this game, with the Seahawks favored by 7. So Gerald Everett has scored 17, 10, and 11 fantasy points in the last 3 games off of 5, 4, and 2 pass targets. So I like that he got 5 pass targets last game, and his salary is low enough where I think he's a good value play at tight end in a good matchup. So I like Gerald Everett here versus the Detroit Lions.
If you want to try all these daily fantasy tools for yourself, click the link in the description below this video or just go to draftdashboard.com. You can use our DFS lineup optimizer to build quality lineups using our picks and your own custom player pool. Click the link in the description below this video and try all these daily fantasy tools right now. Thanks so much for watching. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit that bell icon so you can get instant updates whenever we post a new video.
Thank you so much for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, please smash that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Oh, and please comment below with your favorite player for this NFL slate. I love to hear what you guys have to think. Thanks again, and good luck.